All right, guys, we came off our third and last game against the Israeli Olympic national team. We lost 95 to 86, so we missed out on our Israeli national championship. But, last episode, if you haven't listened to it yet, go back and listen to our Sports Rabbi show. It's super interesting. We had a guy from Israel come on and talk about this team and kind of gave us context on these games. And he was very confident that this team was going to really take it to us, this Olympic team, that they had grown men, NBA guy on the team who proved to be very good, and that we were going to get kind of ran off the court eventually. We never got ran off the court. We really hung in there. In fact, it was on like single digits near the end with like 2 minutes left, maybe even. It was very close at times. But it did feel like eventually the team was larger. They were more experienced. They hit their shots. Their passing was just super good. It felt like they were grown men, and we still had a couple guys. They were just out of high school and things, but the fact that we held on was pretty cool. Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, you just saw basketball at a really high level. And again, that episode, Sports Rabbi made a good mention of just the style of play. I think that was a theme for me. The international rules got us a couple times. Chance Westry was ejected for 2 unsportsmanlike fouls that were literally just called for grabbing a hold of any part of a player's jersey. We got a 10-second violation, not knowing some of the rules of that.
But it was an 8-second and instead of 10 or something. It was something strange, right?
It's 8 in NBA, it's 10 in FIBA, but they knocked the ball out of bounds, and Chance was at point guard, and he just didn't realize he had to get it across in 3 seconds.
Chance is not an international man, apparently.
Well, again, like you said, fresh out of high school, good learning experience, just a lot of little things. So that was a piece of it. But like you said, the Israeli national team, a bunch, guys who have played in the NBA, guys who have played professionally in other countries, and they are gearing up for a big tournament that's really important for their growth. And I think in a good way, Auburn kind of pushed them and made them play hard, if that makes sense.
It made it feel like they had to turn it up a gear or two. And I saw people commenting about that. It felt like early on we were actually really playing well against them, and it felt like kind of an even matchup, other than maybe the NBA guy that we really had no answer for the entire night. But then down the stretch, probably in the third, really, that's when they turned it up. We could not keep them off the free throw line, and it wasn't the ref's fault or anything. Like, it feels like half the time in the SEC, they were just too big for us and making really good passes, and we just kept constantly. That's another thing from the entire night. We were constantly out of position because they passed it so well. We started the night brutally with a lot of over pursuing of guys, and they had so many open threes, and then later on they ended up having a ton of open cutters behind the basket and guys driving with really good position, and we just fouled a lot. They did a lot of mismatches with Wendell and Zepp and different smaller guys, and they very admirably play defense against these guys, but they clearly had a plan to switch on to these, and there's not going to be a lot of teams in fact, I don't know the last time we saw a team like this kind of passing, this kind of size in college basketball.
Well, and you saw man, honestly, I thought we responded well after the first 3 or 4 possessions of this game. I was like, oh no, they clearly we settled in, and being tied at the end of the first quarter, down 2 at halftime. The third quarter got a little out of hand, got down 12, but then, like you said, we got within 5 or 6 multiple times in the fourth quarter, made some runs, but they had a clear understanding of, they got a lot of open shots. Israel would say they should have hit some open shots, but as we'll talk about, Auburn got really good shots too and just didn't hit them either. So I actually felt really good about it. Israel was the better team. They attacked more. They got to the line. They knew how to they knew how the rules are. They had a little bit of an advantage there. But I thought Auburn stood toe to toe with them and gave them a good battle. And it was kind of frustrating to me as a fan, because I really wanted us to kind of, especially with the expectations there that we weren't going to be able to win by some people, I wanted us to kind of pull the Auburn shock the world thing. And we had a real opportunity to. And I think overall, it was just this game encapsulates why these are so important. You can't replicate this kind of experience for our 18 to 21-year-olds.
I think we learned more. I think we learned more in a half this game than we learned in the other 2 combined. I wish we could have played teams of this magnitude or teams of this skill level.
International, national teams. You wish we'd played all
Yeah,
the.
well, I mean, like clearly in this tournament, as much as we've enjoyed, I think it's been great to have an exotic location and things, but they clearly put together this U20 team for us. Basically, it was missing half their players because they were in some other tournament already. And then they had a select team that was clearly just put together for this. And then finally we got to play what was really a team that cared and wanted to win and had
with a coach and a strategy.
And had chemistry and different things. And we learned so much more from that than we did the other two. In fact, I think one of the biggest things we learned from this game and the others is that, and I was saying it the entire time with these other teams, when we saw like that first game, we were just so clearly more athletic than them that we didn't have to work that hard to get things done. Next game, even then, it still felt like we had an athletic advantage and things. And we saw players like Johan and Chance and Cardwell and even Flanagan to a bit and some other players, like they got their points and they looked pretty good. And then you up that level, you up it to a level that we're kind of worried about at this point. Like I'm judging us against the best of the best at this point in college basketball. And that's where we worry about our small guards and we worry, is Flanagan still a step slow? Are these high school guys going to, come over? Another big one we worried about was, could Jonai Broom, could he make the step up from Morehead State to the SEC? And some of the guys proved out in this game that, yeah, that step up was going to be really tough. The two high school kids, Chance and Johan, who dominated the first two games and just casually got 20 points in those, looked a little more lost in these, looked a little quieter. Alan Flanagan, 5 fouls, 2 points. He guarded really hard guy. Jalen kind of disappeared a bit. But you know who stepped up? And like this was where like you were cutting the wheat from the chaff or whatever. Jonai Broom, man,
Yeah.
He casually got his 20 points or whatever in those other two games. You were like, oh yeah, we'll see. This game, he proved it. We got a legit dude. That dude made some amazing moves, hit some really nice shots, played some great defense, stayed in the game the entire time when several other players got in foul trouble, which is a big deal for a shot blocker. And man, I think when you look at the tournament all together, we're realizing that Broom is actually the real deal of everybody.
Broom, to me, he's the clear MVP. He played the most minutes as a big guy on the whole team. He had 18 points. He led the team in rebounding. I don't know how many blocks he had. I'm trying to read the Hebrew on the screen here if you're watching on YouTube. He had 3 or 4 blocks, I think, maybe 5. I don't know. He had a lot of blocks, a lot of like.
Hey, maybe 11. We can't read this if you're watching on YouTube. We cannot read the box score. It's all Hebrew at the top. But I'm saying it's 11. It's gotta be.
You want one of those Kessler triple doubles?
Oh yeah.
No, he was fantastic. And honestly, what a great example. Again, the question is going to be, you shoot 25% from 3 tonight as a team. And Jay Billis is on the record on SEC Network saying this, this probably isn't a great shooting team. Well, how do you hang around with the Israeli national team and have a chance to win? It's having guys like Janai Brown who can go hit a 10-foot hook shot in the post. And we actually successfully got him the ball inside. And we actually used him in mismatches against smaller guys at times. And so just having that as a weapon, you saw it a little bit with Austin Wiley that last year, but this is like an experienced veteran dude. And I saw him leading on the floor. I saw him really picking guys up, like help side defense, bailing guys out when they got beat on the perimeter, like Walker did last year. Just like you said, I think he was the star today by a mile. And honestly, when you look at the overall 3 games, he's probably, we saw Chance Westry flash, right, which we'll get to him, no points today. But I think Janai Broom, in the emergence of that, with the renewed, refreshed Dylan Cardwell, has you feeling a lot better about the center position going into this year.
Yeah, I think some people are brought down to earth a little bit on Cardwell this game a bit. I think that there was a couple guys like that you clearly step up a little bit in athletic ability and things change a bit. And he had a good game still, but he went back a little bit to like what we expect of Cardwell.
And let's be fair. He played 35-40% of the amount of minutes. Like the coaches played Janai Broom because he was doing the best job inside against their guys, like you wanted to see. Like they clearly played him way more. Stretch played 4 or 5 minutes. Cardwell played 9. Now Cardwell
got foul trouble.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So we saw Stretch actually so Stretch started the game, I think maybe, or he was in early. And it was
Cardwell started, I think.
Okay, but Stretch was in early, and I was like, this is one game I really want. So I kind of wanted to shrink that up a bit. But Stretch had to come in. I think we're going to see this during the year now. And we got really spoiled with Kessler and Cardwell last year that Kessler stayed out of foul trouble so often. And this game we had, I don't know if Broome actually got into foul trouble or not, but when Cardwell got into foul trouble and Broome had just left the game not that long before, they finally had to be like, all right, Stretch, go in and play some minutes. And honestly, whatever that lineup was that had Stretch in it, I think had Wendell, Stretch. It was one of our worst stretches. I think it was in the third quarter, and it was brutal. So it's going to be tough when he has to come in, but it's still good. Matt's made this point to me when I thought that Stretch would have left or red shirt or something, that like, you got to have that third guy with these centers with foul trouble. And, you could be worse than Stretch.
It's great to have as your 12th guy. That's all I'm saying. Like there will be games. I promise. Last year we didn't have it. Well, I guess we had Stretch last year. We didn't need him. I guess we didn't play him. There probably will be a game or two where that has to happen. So, and I told you they're going to play all 12 guys, both halves. They did. So we committed to that. But you did see some of those minutes lean. You see a guy. Wendell played the second most minutes and had 19 points, led the team, which I'm sure we'll have many spirited debates on Wendell, including today. But I just want to acknowledge, like, to me, I don't know if you have any thoughts. Broome, MVP of today. I thought he was so impressive, and I'm really, really excited to have that as an option in the Bruce Pearl offense, which we know at times, while it's productive and while we score a lot of points, sometimes isn't the prettiest thing to look at. You've got that extra option of a guy inside who can actually finish and score.
We don't get an MVP today because we lost. But
I thought we do. I thought we do. We don't do MVPs and losses?
No, we don't do it. We lost so few times last year. We really never got our process together on like how to process a loss or how we wanted to like structure the show around a loss, which is really fun. Hopefully we don't have to figure it out again this year. But as a tournament yarmulke MVP, I'm giving it to Johni Broome. He was the only one that consistently did it over all three games and really proved out by the end. You kind of like the smaller amount of games you have where you have to project out and you just never know what's going to happen next. I would not expect Chance Westery to go 0 points today because he'd shown so well in the other ones. I would have put good money that he's one of the guys that would like deal well with the size and speed and everything of a better team, and he didn't. I mean, he's fine, but Broome is the one that really proved it out. So good for him. He gets the yarmulke for the tournament, and yeah, it's fun.
Okay, I'm with you there. Now I want to talk about,
Chris Moore.
Okay, yeah.
I want to give a big shout out to Chris Moore early in the show because I was giving him some mess last game. I think, is that the one you told me to keep Chris Moore out of my mouth? Because he ended up playing a really good game today. And I honestly texted Matt at one point that if he hit a 3-pointer, like he was playing so well, like in the mid third or something, right before we started really losing, that if he could hit a 3 or something, he could be in the MVP discussion. Because he just played really well. He cleaned up a lot of stuff, got some points, let the game come to him. And we'll talk about Flanagan a little bit, but I kind of want Flanagan to be like a better version, an actual startable version of what Chris Moore was today. Just play good defense, scrap, get some rebounds, put them back, pass the ball most of the time. Like that's what Chris Moore, he just was great. And I think we're going to get this, maybe every 5th or 6th game maybe this year where Chris Moore just out of nowhere is like, oh, wow, thanks, Chris Moore. We forgot that you're pretty athletic and that like you can help us out here.
And he's clearly a leader on this team. It's great to see him have a good moment. He scored early. He had a lot of energy. He was efficient, 9.6 rebounds for him, in not a ton of minutes. Although I guess he played, a little less than Flanagan. So that's probably good for him. Really happy for him. And the only reason I got on you last time is because you said he was forcing it. I'm like, he went to the basket one time. He has to be a threat. But you're right, getting the dirty points, being physical. Even in high school as an undersized guy, he could play inside. He was this physical, aggressive presence. That's a great athlete. And it's good to see. He stuck around. He could have left. And man, you talk about, I think the big conversation piece out of this whole tournament, going from now till the beginning of the year, is like, man, what do you do and where do you slide Chance Westery in? Like, where does he go? He can obviously play 1 through 3. We've talked about that, but you start actually, I was pretty vocal that, oh, well, there's no way he's going to start at point guard. And then you start like thinking about it. It's like, well, are we starting him ahead of Flanagan and Chris Moore? And that doesn't seem likely. Are we starting him ahead of KD? Like possibly. It's going to be fascinating to see how Bruce handles that. I
think my criticism I sent to Matt today about Wendell, that annoys me. He can score. He scored 19 points. He can be a baller. At one point, he had this really cool stop and go move that he like, I don't know if he made the guy fall or if he just like freaked him out or whatever. But sometimes I wonder if Wendell's truly making the rest of his teammates around him better. There'll be like lineups where he is clearly the focal point of the lineup, and then sometimes it'll just fall apart and he'll end up like dribbling around and never really getting the ball to anybody and then taking like an NBA three. And I'm like, that's fine that you can make those sometimes and that you're clearly a baller, but the point of your position is you got to make the rest of the guys around you better. And when we have like a non-star in there somewhere, when it's like kind of a scrappier lineup, I don't feel like he's making the rest of the guys. I don't think he's getting them open shots or getting them going towards the basket or something. He just ends up trying to do it by himself. And that's just not going to be what we need out of him. We need him, like, he's not that good to where he can just go do it by himself when there's not some other stars in. So then you wonder, like, is Chance the kind of guy that can make the rest of his team around him better? Or because Wendell is clearly like, just doesn't seem to have like, I mean, we watched Sharif Cooper and Jared Harper, and this is like way hard to compare Wendell to them because they're just amazing. But man, Sharif Cooper could make everybody around him look so much better. He would make Cambridge look like an all-star out there because he could give him the ball in these amazing spots. And Jared too made the rest of the guys around him just look better when he was in. And I don't get that from Wendell necessarily. So then you wonder if he could be a shooting guard maybe or something to use that scoring ability a little better.
I just think he's too special of a passer. I think he is by far maybe Chance. And Flanagan has some good moments as a distributor. But like, honestly, if you told me one guy on the team to stir the drink, I still go back. I know you would argue that maybe people figured him out, but when things were humming last year, it was because Wendell was just taking the league by storm and he was making it. I've seen him do it. Now, I agree. Does he get a little 3-point happy and his timing is questionable? Yes. You know who else used to do that? A guy named Jared Harper, his first 2 years at Auburn.
I never got mad with his three. Like, I remember even early with Wendell starting to do that. I was like, I kind of love it. You get in these like moments where you're up, you just scored 2 or 3 times, and then you hit one of those long threes. And even if you miss it, I forgive it because if you could hit it, it'd be amazing. And you just get back on defense and play hard again. Wendell, on the other hand, does it a lot when we're like in the worst possible moments where he thinks like, oh, we haven't scored in a while. We're going down 8. Now I'm going to shoot it. I'm like, no, that's the opposite time. Now I need you to like be the most focused you can be,
The thing I liked, now again, and I always say this because I think it's important and I don't know if people pay attention to it. With point guards, especially in this offense, you have to be really careful to check the shots. Today, there were some bad ones. I'm with you. But he's going to have the ball in his hands with 4 seconds on the shot clock a lot, especially, by the way, 24-second shot clocks in this tournament, whether it's 30 in college. So shorter shot clock. There are going to be 2 or 3 shots a game that Wendell takes that somebody's going to have to shoot it. And he's going to have the ball in his hands and he's going to take it. The ones earlier in the shot clock where there's no pass or limited offense running. Now, we've seen Bruce's offense. That's always how it's been. He's going to encourage guys to shoot. But you're right. I would much rather Wendell be in the lane. He had some beautiful passes and assists today. So I don't want to like lose track of that either. I know it can be difficult at times, but him and KD and Janai were the 3 guys who battled the most and Chris Moore, but like they rose to the occasion and kept us in this game. I just want to make that pretty clear.
Here's my like chess move to your like he's gonna have the ball at the end to shoot up these 3 because Zepp had those situations too where it just the thing fell apart. You just got to shoot something. Wendell gets in trouble with it because he's having a hard time getting the offense started sometimes. There's like this certain, I don't know if they're calling it or what they're doing, but they know Wendell's small. They know if you harass him, he gets up there, gets pushed up to the half-court line, barely gets the ball out. Then the offense is like starting at a really weird spot. Then Wendell asks for the ball back. He looks up. He's got like 10 seconds left on the clock at that point because they never really got the offense started because he never got the offense started. And then he's out there shooting NBA 3. And you're like, whose fault is that? Is that Wendell's or whose or what?
I just want to make sure everybody understands. In that exact scenario that you just described today, if that happened, there's 16 seconds on the clock in November when we play. So I do think that
last year. It happened several times last year where they clearly figured out if they could double team him, harass him up front, and we did not have a counter. And you could say it's because of Wendell's size, or you could say we could have worked some other things out. Maybe another player needs to help him out. You got to make them pay for that. And we have just not made teams pay for pushing up on Wendell, really. Like, it's just not worked out so far.
Well, you're right. And that's always going to be the thing with him. And the question is just, do you think he can figure it out or not? And I think that's where we differ. I think, we've talked about this. I don't want to beat a dead horse too bad in August, but can he improve? Can he adjust to that? Can he make better plays out of it as he gets more and more experience? I think he can. Now, is he always going to be limited finishing at the rim? Yeah.
It's gotten worse, honestly, but I will give him some props. I was also texting about this, that his floater game has gotten better. He's starting to stop trying. He just keeps going at the rim still and getting blocked. He's done that. He did that 2-3 times tonight also. I don't blame him for that necessarily, but he has picked up a floater game a little bit that's looking better. He needs to keep developing that, and he's got a couple more months and hopefully a couple more years even to keep developing that. And I think he can improve in that aspect of the game. I think maybe we need to schematically work some things around and make people pay when they come up on Wendell. I don't know how to do that. I'm not an expert, just a fan trying to think about basketball.
Well, and here's the other thing. He's just a fearless guy. And whether you think he's effective or not, he got to the line 10 times. He's the only player on our team besides KD in the fourth quarter that got to the rim, got fouled, and got some easy points. And we talked about this last year, who's the guy going to the rim? Zep, it's not his strongest thing. Flanigan has not recaptured that. We thought Flanigan might be that guy, and maybe he will be hopefully in 3 months, but he just hasn't proven that he's back to drawing fouls, finishing those tough twos in the lane. So on this roster, maybe Chance has some of that. We haven't really seen it. We'll see how he plays against college, D1 opponents. Who else is going to be the guy who attacks downhill? And it's KD Johnson and it's Wendell Green. I don't know if we want to talk about KD a little bit.
Yeah, this would be a good time to talk about KD, man. We said all last year, and you wonder how kids change over a thing or whatever. KD giveth and KD taketh away. Man, he took it and he giveth tonight. It was another classic KD game. He he struggled at times. He missed a lot of open threes that were really irritating. There was one in particular that's in transition that could have been just an amazing moment. And I totally supported him shooting that three, but he stood on that line for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. It then shot after looking around. He was looking for it's almost like he was waiting for that stare down three, which seems to be his only three in his pocket, because he went 1 of 7 from three, 20%. And you just wonder, or not even that, 14% from three, and he shot 7 threes, which the only person that shot more was Wendell, who was what, 2 of 8 at 25%. It's just not good. Our 3-point shooting at 25%. You wish you could just take all the threes that KD takes and give them to Zep, because Zep's been super efficient with his threes, and maybe with volume he would be as efficient.
3 for 4 today, no big deal.
3 of 4, yeah, and one of them was kind of a trash three near the end. But he's just so efficient. When he's open, he hits the three. But KD did all that, and he really during the first half of the game, we could have really gotten a lead and really felt like this was our game if he could have just hit a couple open threes and just didn't do it. But then when we went down in the third, and it looked like, this game, it felt like when they turned the gear up a bit and we were struggling with the size, we looked a little lost. KD went and did his thing and got us back in it. He's just got this innate sense of when the team needs him. And I feel like Flanigan and Wendell think they have that, and they take some awful shots, but KD goes in there and gets a foul call and gets the game going, and he hits his free throws. I wish he could finish some of those. He's really gotten bad about never finishing them, but he did that, which was amazing. Got us back in this game, got us close, and then made a bunch of mistakes in a row after that again to let us back out. So I don't know what to do.
It's defensively too. I mean, he's going to foul some shooters. He's going to have some rough fouls, but he's going to force some steals and he's going to make some plays. And I think the thing we landed on last year is there's just nobody else like him, and you're glad he's on your side. I think we saw that last year, just how valuable he could be.
You wish he could be an amazing 6-man, honestly, because he'd be a perfect 6-man to come in and give you so much energy and play great defense and do some of those drives, hit some in-your-face shots, and not have to be the guy that has to make the open threes, And
I'm not so sure that's not going to happen. I mean, and if they can convince him to do what Wendell did last year, you're still going to play the same amount of minutes. You're just going to come off the bench and be this energy spark, coming off. That might be the play. That might be the route to get Chance on the floor to start and to bring him off the bench. We'll see.
I would love that. That'd be the perfect role for KD. He brings all this energy. I don't know. That brings me up a little bit too, also, to say he has that it factor when we go down that gets us
Yep.
there. And I think Allen Flanagan and Wendell think they have that too. And we need it at times from Wendell, because sometimes there's some lineups where like, yeah, Wendell is the only guy in this lineup that I feel confident in scoring the ball, which sucks that we ever have to play a lineup where Wendell feels like the only one, because Zep can get really quiet sometimes, which is irritating because I think he can be better than he is. We got some young guys like Johan and Chance that you just don't know about yet. You get a guy like Jalen in there. You just, I'm not going to rely on Jalen to score. Hopefully we can always have a lineup maybe with Broom in it and Wendell, like one of these guys is going to be in it, hopefully. But that brings that up with Allen Flanagan too. And it's a good time to think, well, Flanagan, I think.
Oh no, everybody just prepare. And by the way, I do just want to make a funny note. If you ever want to know what it's like to text with Jackson during Auburn sporting events, today was a great example where he was getting his text ready for, I've done the math. If KD had hit 1 or 2 more threes, we would have won this game. This is like the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left. And in the meantime, KD like literally scored like 4 or 6 straight points, and we were back within like 2 or 4. And it was just like, first of all, the game's not over. Second of all, even if he hits 1 or 2 threes, it may not make a difference. It was just fun. It was a fun text.
If he hit 3 more threes, am I doing the math right? We would have been tied. Just had 3 more threes there. But
that's
I think
just
the point I was making was that he, before he hit one, I don't know when he hit one, he was like 0 of 6. I think, and they were really big moments in the game. And I was just like, if we could just hit 30% from 3, and we shot 25% as a team tonight. And I'm just like, please, like, I think we'll be watching that all year now. If we could hit that 30% from 3 number, I think we're going to look like a good team out there. That's just enough to be dangerous to say you can't make us shoot threes and win the game. But I just don't know if we're going to hit that 30%. You'll have to have Chance shoot more, maybe Johan shoot more, maybe Zep shoot more. I don't know how to get Zep more. Like he's kind of like Chumo Kiki and some of these other quieter guys that are not going to like alpha male this thing. And there's not enough room, honestly, to have another alpha male. But
Zep's going to get his shots because people aren't going to pay attention to him. I mean, that's the rate when people start scouting us. He's going to have those shots that like Flanagan last year just couldn't make after his injury. He just couldn't make those shots. And keep in mind, though, I think you're shooting too low. I'll be honest. We shot low 30s last year with
the whole season. I thought we ended up under 30 last season.
No, I think with Jabari, I think we were over 30.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Jabari was 40 something. He really, but that's what I'm saying. You take Jabari out, I'll look that up. But
we already struggled last year with 3, even with Jabari. People knew we struggled with 3.
We need to be closer. I would say 33 is the number we need to get to, like 1 out of 3. And
I'm giving them a little favor with 30. I think 33 is like the average number that you hope from a team, really. And 35 is a good shooting thing. And 30, I'm like, we have an athletic team that can turn people over and we can score in other ways. If we can just get 30, we could be okay. And I just don't even know if we can get that,
Yeah.
And now we're looking up the stats here, maybe to see what we had last season. Are you doing the exact same thing?
Go to a new player. I'm going.
Well, we can talk about Flanagan right now because I have my rants about Flanagan. I was on the spaces on Twitter before and stuff. And clearly, I was surprised how many people after the first 2 games were really bragging on Flanagan that he's back. Oh, he looks athletic. He looks better. Looks more comfortable. And then even this one, people disagreed with me that he doesn't. I think he looks frustrated out there. I think even in the first 2 games against way less athletic teams, like teams that we got context from the sports rabbi saying that Lior Berman would be the absolute star on that U20 team. And Lior Berman would be the star on the select team even, and he would have played on the Olympic team. So Flanagan to look even frustrated a little bit knows and to look athletic against a bunch of Lior Bermans, of course he does. Like he is athletic. He's very athletic. He's a step slow or whatever, but he's athletic. And then this game, it really showed the frustration, and he had to guard this NBA guy, which sucks, but a lot of people had to guard him tonight. There's a lot of switching, and he just looked frustrated. And I'm worried most, and Matt, I think, shares this worry that he might be pulling in a different direction, and he should have been this 4-year solid guy that's happy to start by his like junior and senior year and just be a contributor on a good basketball team. But he got hyped up in that COVID year, and people gave him NBA hype, and people thought, yeah, man, going to next year, he's going to be a star. He's going to be second team SEC. He might go NBA. It just didn't work out last year. He got injured. He came back. He didn't have the same kind of chemistry at the team. He kept trying to be this, like the leader of the team, the alpha guy, the guy that gets the shot, and it's just not there. And we need him to like, at some point, to like know his role. And if he's trying his very best in his senior year, which I feel for him, to make the NBA and make his dreams happen, but it's not the best thing for the team, it's going to be really tough. And he's a coach's kid, so you think it should be easier, but maybe it's not easier as the coach's kid. And so it's going to be really interesting to watch when he's not hitting his shots. See, tonight he had one of the worst shots I could think of from a senior that should be level-headed and really like in the moment, has seen everything. And we were down bad, maybe 10 points or something in the third. And it really felt like the moment the game could crack open. And he took a contested long NBA three early in the shot clock. And my mind was blown that the senior was doing that. It was like just such a bad decision. So it made you wonder about the attitude there. And then he ended with 5 fouls, 2 points, and it just looked frustrating. They picked up another offensive foul. It was on a screen, so it's not a usual charge thing. But I think the jump in athletic ability was one of those things that just kind of showed that, like, yeah, maybe he's not back as much as we all dream and hope he is.
Yeah, I think everybody wants that. I think that's the main thing. I think you're hearing a lot of, you've been around the Auburn fan base a long time. I think we tend to sometimes, like I do. I want to be an optimistic fan. I hope Flanagan kills it this year, because I think the best version of this basketball team is an aggressive, healthy, 2-point attacking, rim throttling Alan Flanagan, who defends well and shows off all those skills and like makes the most of this year. I think that's still the path. And honestly, I wouldn't change anything after 3 meaningless games in Israel. But like you said, and I'm not trying to be conspiracy theory Jackson over here, but I can just envision, 5 or 10 games in, if we're still having these conversations during non-conference play about him like getting it and reaching that potential, like what do you do? And that's why the coaches are paid the big bucks. I think it's more complicated maybe just because, Wes is his dad and obviously they want what's best for him. He stayed, he could have left and gone somewhere else. But I'm not like panicking, but if I had to make a list of the ways that this season goes awry, that's on the list. I just think it is.
I'm trying to figure out
I got the percentage, by the way. What is it? We shot 31.8 last year.
Not great. And that's with Jabari having an amazing 3-point percentage. What do you have, 40% or something?
Over 40 plus.
Wow, man. Miss Jabari. Hopefully we have some good summer league games and like different like practice stuff and exhibition. They'll be starting the NBA before too long. We'll have some Jabari stuff to talk about.
We need to make it our goal to get back to that team confident shooting that Bruce Pearl teams have always been known for at like 33. If we could improve our 3-point percentage without Jabari with this group, that would be awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that 30% number will be something to watch during this. Do we have like rebounds and turnovers? Do we know how we ended up with all those?
No.
Do we, any other players you want to, I could talk about Zep, hit those threes. I feel like Zep needs more of a role, but like he's got to be quiet and there's not a lot of alpha. There's not a lot of room left for someone to take more shots,
Well, but you talk about Zep knows his role and he's going to play his role better this year. He's probably going to come off the bench instead of starting point guard. And he's going to be great at it because he just has that kind of, you don't have to worry about him. I think the bigger thing that we just haven't talked about yet, really, Chance, but don't freak out. It's just young player. And I don't even think we played bad. I just think it's one of those games where I think our veterans, including Janai Broome, they were ready and in the fight. They were ready to be in the fight. They've been in the fights. And I think sometimes when you haven't been in the fight, same thing with Johan, right? Like Johan had 8 points, played 20 plus minutes, like more than a lot of our main players, just kind of didn't. He was quiet. He hit his first two shots of the game, didn't hit a shot the rest of the game, didn't take many. So I don't think that's a function of them not being as good as we thought. I think it's just, our experienced players were more ready for the battle that took place today. And I don't think that's a detriment. I am disappointed. I think big picture, the power forward position on this team, nobody's going to be Jabari. But I just have really high, how I feel about Jalen. I'm probably going to go down with the ship. But Jalen, Johan, and some Janai Broome at power forward, that group, I expect a lot out of them. And I just thought Johan and Jalen were too quiet and didn't make enough impactful plays today.
I heard somebody today, maybe it was on a different podcast or something, that just, with Jalen, I know you're a huge Jalen guy. I think Bruce got people a little over their skis a bit with Jalen too, saying that, Johan's coming in, but Jalen's our guy. We're going to build around Jalen. And I give Bruce the props so much about being realistic with players and setting the right expectations at Auburn. Yeah. He might have been, I think we called it at the time. He wanted Jalen to stick around. We needed Jalen to stick around. And he said, we're building around you. And I really feel like that's not going to happen. And maybe Bruce really meant it. He was going to build around Jalen, and it just is not clicking right now. What Jalen doesn't feel like, which is frustrating. Especially this game is a little more forgivable. Like as much as it shouldn't be, 4 points is not great. I don't know how many rebounds he had or anything.
I always want to have a good Jalen stat. Here you go. Here's your good Jalen stat for the day. Shout out to KD, by the way, highest plus minus on the team. He had, I don't like plus minus as a judge, but it's telling. It's telling sometimes. And to support your Wendell argument, Wendell had 19 points, but he was minus 13 when he's on the floor. So,
He got abused on defense a good bit. They shot so many more free throws than us. And a good bit was that because they got a bunch of mismatches and we just would foul them and make them go to the free throw line.
I didn't get to my Jalen stat. Jalen had the second highest plus minus on the team when he played.
Plus minus. Oh,
behind KD. Just throwing it out there. Let's talk about that because you said something. You've been on this, and I think it's correct. Smart teams who go inside can get our guards, and it's not just because it's Wendell. Zep's small, although he looks bigger somehow. I still am confused.
Zep got abused, not abused once or twice. He fought really hard against some of these guys and made a denial or two, but it was still an issue that he was having to do that,
If you've ever played basketball, like you can fight as hard as you want. And I know him and KD are going to fight on that end, but like if you're guarding a 6'10" guy and you're 6 foot and somebody throws a halfway decent pass, you're in trouble. And with 3 guards like that, it's just going to be a problem. The good thing that I told you is that not many teams are smart enough or patient enough to do that a lot. Like you just don't
have the personnel to do it,
Exactly. So, but it is something to watch when you have that many small guards. I mean, and I do think the versatility of Chance, being able to play at those 2 spots will help with that. It won't feel as vulnerable as it did last year with, having
when there's 2 or 3 in. I mean, we have like minimum basically 2 almost always, at least pre-Chance. Of one of the small guards, either Zep or Wendell or KD, like 2 of the 3 were usually in. And that really, like you can counteract 1 small guy. When you got 2 small guys in, it gets real tough. Those mismatches you can't like trade off the way you need to.
But just think about those minutes this year. Like Wendell, let's say he starts and goes to the bench during his regular rotation. Well, now Chance is at point guard and he's big. And yeah, you may have KD or you may have Zep, but they're going to fight. And you've got Flanagan, Broom, Jalen, Johan supporting them. Team defense. So I think Chance is going to make a big difference with that in the course of the season. But yeah, if you're smart and you've got big guys who know what they're doing, get those switches all day. That's all they did. Ball screen offense, switch, attack inside. And then Auburn, I thought, collapsed too easily and gave up the 3 too easily. You almost have to give up some layups now the way the modern game is played because people are so efficient with that 3-point shot. We kind of got away with a few today, I thought, that we left open.
They ended up shooting 35% over there, which is good. But to start the game, I think hopefully we made some adjustments. I don't know, maybe they changed the way they played too. Man, we were over pursuing the ball so hard on defense that they got so many open threes through the game and they missed most of them. And thank God, because that's what kept us in the game for the whole first half, basically, is they missed a lot of threes. But clearly down the stretch, they started hitting a bunch of them because they ended up with 35%.
But let's do the irresponsible. We're not overreacting to this, but we're going to do a little thing here. I'm putting you on the spot. I want us to talk through 2 or 3 reasons for big time optimism this year that from what we saw this week, and then 2 or 3 like, oh, I'm really worried about this. I think we talked through this, but just kind of cliff noted it towards the end of this episode. So let's talk negative first. The blind spots. Would you agree that one of them is the small guards and potentially some liability there?
And the fact that we're still having issues like figuring out how to counteract people harassing our guards and mismatching on them. In fact, teams figured it out like halfway through SEC play. I think Arkansas was really, really good at it. A couple other teams, and they're going to go into this year planning to do that to us. So I think there's going to be even more teams figuring out ways to get under our small guards, and then more teams too harassing our small guards up at the top of the key and like not getting our offense started until 10 seconds left in the shot clock.
There are ways to beat that. And if you think we have a good coaching staff, we should be a little more prepared for that with a whole offseason, because you're right. I do think that's a concern. I'll throw out another nominee of a concern. I've mentioned the Allen situation. I think that is one that could definitely, we've talked about that. I think the Allen thing speaks to a bigger question. You know me, I want as big of a roster as possible to have. And that's just because I'm always scared of bad things happening, because that's Auburn fanhood, lots of guys getting hurt, or I want to have as many options as we can. We have a ton of options. I think you can argue that we almost have too many options. So how do those minutes shake out, and what are the rotations like? And like you said, are the hard decisions, whether that's Jalen not starting him or not playing him as often, whether that's Flanagan, Wendell, is it benching Wendell? I don't think it is, but I think that's and every team has to do that. But when you have 12 guys, maybe 11, no offense to Stretch, but I think Stretch kind of knows where he's at. I mean, it's hard.
I'm afraid that it was easier to. It's like winning cures everything. It was easy to ask Cardwell and Jalen and Flanagan and take a little bit of a back seat when we were playing so well. We were heading number one. Everybody's having fun. Everybody's winning. And next year is going to be your year. Just enjoy being a winner this year. And you're going to have a big year next year. And to come in and Johan and Chance look so great, which is we'll get to that when we get to our pros. But it starts pushing guys around a little bit. Jalen, I'm sorry, Jalen, it's not even Johan, it's you. He's not looking like a star out there. He should have abused those first two teams with his size and strength. And he just didn't. He kind of shies away from contact sometimes, it feels like. He's shooting some decent threes. I don't know. So it's going to be tough to ask Jalen to do that again. And honestly, if you look at Jalen's recruitment and where Jalen was, he barely started that first year, or barely played that first year, and then he had a weird year with COVID. Honestly, he should be a guy that's happy to play this 7th or 8th role or whatever from where we started with him. But he's another one of those weird COVID year ones where I think maybe we got a little ahead of that too, that he could be a dude. And now when he's not a dude his senior year, this is kind of what we expected, I think, his freshman year that he would be. But before that dunk off the backboard, when he didn't even play almost the whole year, you would have said by his senior year, playing back up to a 5-star guy and contributing and stuff that'd be perfect situation for him. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think people forgotten he was really good in that COVID year. He was one of the few bright spots. His stats were really good. If you go look at it, he had the minutes and he responded. I think we've seen the potential there, and I think that's where it's hard. We've seen it with Flanagan, we've seen it with him, and I tend to think that that's more possible than maybe somebody, certain people do with recruiting. Like you said, both of those guys were 3-star guys, whatever. But I've seen them both be way above that in certain. I just see the potential.
You wonder if there's any selective memory with that COVID year that we lost a lot of games.
We weren't very good.
No, we weren't very good. And I wonder if there's a bit of a selective memory that against the best team, we just got dominated. And we don't really remember that they didn't show up because they should. We weren't very good that year. And then when we had a guy like Jalen and Allen go off against Mississippi State and hit a bunch of threes in that game, or Allen Flanagan did well against this other not so great team, like a LSU or Arkansas or somebody that wasn't that great really, or South Carolina, because that's the games we won. We think how great, but really it's because those weren't very good teams. And now we expect to beat the best teams, and they couldn't handle it then and they can't handle it now. I wonder if we just have that selective memory.
Maybe, and I just tend to be pro player growth. I do think college students can get better. They might have a ceiling. There may be, and maybe those guys are at their ceiling. Maybe they can't get any better.
I feel like some of it's been stunted too, though, with that year, which is just such a shame. And it affects all their lives, and it's affecting their career in weird ways too. That I think they keep trying to jump too far ahead a little bit in their careers when they could have been if they could have kept that I'm sure they're hustling super hard and things like that too. But if they kept that little more I'm the underdog attitude with the team and everything, things might look slightly different. And our own attitudes would be different. Look at this guy, Allen Flanagan, no way, out of nowhere, he's contributed. Now we're just oh, he's supposed to be a star. So when he's not being a star, we're really concerned about it,
Yeah. Well, and the only other weakness I could think of is the shooting. Yeah, it's going to be the outside shooting. I really like where this team is inside. I like a lot of the pieces. I like the positional versatility of everybody. I love the defensive effort I saw at this stage of the off season. I think the way we play defense, you can go a long way with that. The aggressiveness on the offensive rebounding. Although, you didn't see that as much today against some bigger, older, stronger guys. But shooting is probably the only other thing I could look at and be I'm a little concerned. And then just the dynamic of the newcomers, right? The newcomers look really good. So how does that blend with the return? But you have that every year in college basketball.
Yeah. You wonder the all-time, before we switch to the all-time pro, and I'm gonna get excited, I swear. The one thing you can do that could be the ultimate death scenario is just that the offense plays really badly. We don't have the shot. the guards can't get the offense going. And then when they can't get it going, they freak out and they shoot bad threes. And the offense looks so bad. And the one thing we think we can guarantee is that this team should have really good defense and be a really hustler team, has some really cool players like KD and Zep that are super good at guard and defense, have a guy like Broom that's such a great blocker. But if you start messing up and start devolving too much on offense, the buy-in on defense won't be there because they get exhausted that they just play great defense and then turn the ball over on the other end or can't do anything. And then you just have this like death spiral of like not buying in on defense and then on offense. And so you just hope that we don't get there. But that's like the ultimate, like, the buy-in's not there just because we can't get shots to go in.
I think that happens more often in another sport. You see that a lot in other sports. I think when this is like the bedrock of your foundation and your program, and at this point, Bruce has established like, nah, like this is it. I got Jabari to come in who, should have been number one pick. He played his tail off on defense. You're going to play defense. And I liked what I saw from all the newcomers buying into that. And I think that's where it's valuable to have the three small guards, because even Wendell, he's not as good of a defender as those other two, but he's scrappy enough and feisty enough. Like all three of those guys will get after it and make things happen and go. I think it's contagious, and I think we have the right guys on this team to make it contagious. And so I don't worry about that quite as much, but you're right. I mean, it could happen. You just don't see it happen as often in basketball, I don't think.
And we're getting some hype nationally, even just based off this Israeli stuff. And we got some good players and we got some guys, some names coming back and things. I'm actually hoping we start getting disrespected more. I think this team could thrive a lot more as the underdog, scrappy. Yeah. Sure, we lose some games here and there, but by the end of the year, we're like, we look up and we've upset some teams too, and we're disrespected and we make some moves in the tournament because we kind of come in with this real like scrappy attitude. But right now, we're getting a little too much hype, honestly. I think we need to get a couple more criticism so these guys have something on their shoulders, because they're coming off a great year last year. And I think there's some like, we can do it again kind of thing when I need a little more like, oh, we'll prove it to you kind of thing,
Yeah. It'll be interesting. The SEC's gotten so much better. I mean, I think Auburn's picked 5th or 4th. I mean, and they're all in the top 15 nationally, top 20. So like, it's going to be tough. We know we'll have a whole preseason, schedule look and everything like we did last year. For those who have joined, we'll do a big old thing as we get closer to the season. But so why is the hype, Jackson? What are the positives that we're looking at this
These
week?
New guys, man, are really killing it. I know those first 2 games were really not against great teams and they've disappointed a little bit in this one, but even this one, I still felt like they looked the part. I feel really great. Man, Johan looks so smooth out there. He looks strong out there. Chance, like, I had no idea he could be a point guard. The fact that he can play all 3 of those positions, like, it really feels like he's like a guy that you can like plug the gaps. If something's not working out, Chance can be in one of those 3 positions, which is huge, because I think going in my head at least, he was just going to be a 3 guy. And if Flan could not get together, hopefully Chance can. And now he feels like a guy that can kind of fill one of those roles if there's an injury or something can happen, and he can fill it well. And it gives us so much more dynamic. And then Broom on top of that, all of our new guys have just looked so good out there, and we worried it. I don't think we're going to be as good as we were last year, but the newcomers are really plugging in. And I thought, you kind of like, you're like gambling a little bit. You have like a little bit of like a certain chance. Like one of these 3 guys you would think is going to come in, like one's probably going to meet his expectations. One's going to be fine. And the other's going to not be that great, really. All 3 are looking really good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens when the real games start. But yeah, you can ask for a better start for the newcomers. Even Trey Donaldson had he hit a pull-up 15-footer in crunch time of the 4th quarter. He was playing, and it was a big bucket. And it was like, oh.
Then he tried to do it 2 possessions in a row, and I was like, oh, well.
Well, he took 2 shots. I mean,
and then I think Brew I think there was like 3 jumpers in a row. I was like,
I'm just saying, and Trey, as far as I remember, I don't remember him turning it over maybe 1 time in 3 games, and he played a good bit. So like, just as the least heralded guy, and as a guy who's not probably going to play much this year unless injuries and stuff happen, I really like the look of him as like a prospect who's going to be here for a while. So yeah, I mean, the newcomers I think are clearly number 1. I think you had, and everybody had some concerns. Lose Jabari, you lose Walker. Like, those are big shoes to fill. And I'm not saying you can fill those shoes, but you don't fill basketball. You don't fill individuals' roles. You build a different, stronger team. That's what you do. And I love Broom. I think he's just, I can't say enough. I'm really excited to see the kind of weapon he can be in this offense. I think Jay Phillips tweeted today, this could easily be his skill set, he could be the most exciting center in the Bruce Pearl era, just from the things he can do on offense. Kessler defensively had a season for the ages last year, but like Broome brings a different thing on offense. So yeah, just echo everything you said. I really think Chance is gonna help solve some of our issues that we just talked about in multiple ways throughout the year. He's just if only somebody had texted you, Jackson, when Bruce said in a press conference that Chance Westry was probably going to play point guard 2 and 3 like 4 months ago. If only somebody had texted you that and made a note of it.
Sometimes you just got to wonder. He also said Jalen was going to be the star of this team. So,
I think he's going to start.
I think there's a lot of people agree with you. I think maybe, and it's tough because if he starts him, even as like a gesture that this is the like guy, he hates changing lineups. Like you've brought up so many times. He's got to think that in his mind, that if he starts Jalen, and he plans to hopefully start Johan late in the year, he can't just like casually do that. So he's got to start hope Johan can just take it, and then he doesn't have to do this whole thing.
Here's the lineup that the message boards love, and I don't know if Bruce would consider it, but it's Johan at the 3.
Oh, who all would it be? It would be Broome, Cardwell,
Wendell, KD / Chance, Johan, Jalen, and Broome.
I don't know. Hey, I'd give it a watch. I don't think they played that lineup the entire time, but I'd love to see.
Did not play the 3, but he, I think, is smooth enough and versatile enough to do it. And it's kind of like Jabari. Jabari could have done that last year. I think they just loved where he was at in that 4. It was such a good fit for him in our offense.
Yeah, you wonder if it gets too busy down low. It depends on how much Johan can stretch out. Jalen can stretch a little bit too. Like you just wonder if it gets a little busy, or if there's one too little amount of dribblers. We've watched Johan. He can drive the ball, but I do wonder if we've had issues penetrating into the defense.
Let me ask you this. This is a great fan podcast question based on 3 meaningless games in Israel. Who do you trust dribbling down the floor more right now in transition, Johan or Flanagan?
Ooh, Flanagan.
Probably
I
Flanagan.
Still trust in transition, like down the floor. I still trust Flanagan more. I've not seen Johan a ton. And plus, Johan, the one time he did go coast to coast, carried the ball 2 or 3 times, I think would get called in the SEC. The place Flanagan gets in trouble is driving near the basket. When he's just taking up and down the court, it's actually not that bad. It's when he gets low and he almost he decides too early that he is gonna drive that ball. He's not gonna stop, and the other guys get in front of him because he just overestimates how fast he is. I think
it makes you appreciate. You talk about having PTSD from that COVID year. It was not good when he was forced into point guard duty that year.
Oh, I wouldn't be point guard, no. But
I'm just thinking,
he grabs a rebound, or when he gets a turnover and takes it to the 3-point line, I think I'd rather have Flanagan do that than Johan. I don't know. I don't have seen enough from Johan yet.
I agree, and that's the right answer. Johan he can do some things at that size.
I think I trust Johan more on an actual drive though than I trust Flanagan. He finished a lot of good drives and didn't take that much contact into him either. He manipulated his body enough to do it, and it was fast enough to get the other guy moving his feet, when Flanagan sometimes can the other guy just stops right in front of him. But if we're talking about pro stuff, and I get too far down that track, one more big pro, the pros, all these new guys are really good. And the second one is that last year, as much as we love that team and we love Jabari Smith and we love Walker Kessler, we'll never see guys like that again probably. It had a weird kind of chemistry there because Jabari was such ISO shooter, was not a transition guy necessarily, and it was just so unique, and you had to give it to him. You had to give him the ball. Walker Kessler down there swatting everything. Defense, you couldn't make up for that defense again. But on offense, he was a bit of a black hole right around there. We had a lot of great with the lobs and everything, but it just made the offense feel very off from a usual Bruce Pearl transition, fast break kind of offense. And this year we kind of have a way to get back to that a bit, a more team oriented transition, pass the ball around. We've already seen some great transition, unselfishness, passing the ball around. And last year there was just so much pressure on getting the ball to Jabari and getting the ball to Walker that it kind of made things a little wonky. And this year I think that's a positive, that we can get back to really running it and really feeling like no matter what lineup we throw out there, we can do our style.
And the other thing, everybody mainly who played last year, I guess who started when Flanagan was out, were new players. And, theoretically, all those guards were mid-major / Georgia. I guess Georgia's a mid-major in basketball. So KD from Georgia, Wendell, Zepp.
That's our minor league team, right?
And they were all thrown into the SEC, and honestly, the first half of the year was just amazing. But you were on it. You were on it last year, so y'all should listen to the podcast. It just got different, whether other teams adjusted, whether we ran out of gas, whether some of the stuff, it just never got, and we never found it the rest of the year, really, after that number one ranking. And we won the SEC. It was awesome. I mean, it was a great team, like you said, but there were some holes. And I do wonder.
It just didn't feel like the engine was, it was like sputtering at times. We when we were getting the alley-oops and when we were casually throwing it over to an open Jabari, it was really just humming. And then when they kind of gunked up that alley-oop situation and Wendell started getting bottled up, and then we have to get it to Jabari. The engine just
That's what I was going to say. The irony of last year was we were scoring 100 against Bama. Like we were scoring. I mean, our offense was good and our defense was good. That's why we won all those games. What happened was everybody else quit scoring, and Jabari actually scored way more at the end when we were losing. Like he was carrying the load, and you're right. Whether it was other guys' struggles or small injuries or like whatever the reasons were, we just never quite. And the reason we weren't humming was not because Jabari wasn't. He had a bad tournament game, but like other than that, he was fantastic down the stretch. But it was the sum of the parts. It was the team. It was the quality of looks, like you said. It was all these little things, and that's what makes basketball so fun. Everybody's worked up about Jabari and Walker. I think that's why maybe some other people nationally might not look at us as closely. Bruce has been doing this a long time. Like he knows how to put together a system of 5 guys to do what he wants. We may not always like it or agree with some of the, X's and O's, late game stuff, shot selection, but I think he has the pieces here. If you're looking for the last pro, it's just, I love the weapons we have. It feels like we have a lot of weapons. They're not all experienced. They're not all proven at a high level. They haven't been proven together, but man, it just feels like you saw glimpses these 3 games of all the different ways that we can work with this. It's like clay, and I really feel like we have good clay to work with this year.
Yeah, I hope we can change and wrap our mind around a certain expectation for this team. I'm afraid there's a good amount of the fan base that, it seemed like a lot of people turned into this Israel game and are really starting to pay attention like on a year-round standpoint. I hope you guys do, because we're hopefully going to have more interviews and different things for people to listen to. But I'm hoping people don't go into the next season saying, we're like an elite team every year now, and we should be elite at all times, and we should be every team. That's not the attitude we need to go into with this season. Like there will be other seasons like that where we go in with the expectations. We need to lower our own expectations. Like it is fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch this basketball team. We are going to lose some frustrating games probably, and hopefully we're going to win some really big ones too. And it should be that attitude that like we're going to go in scrappy and we can win and lose anything, but we're going to be playing really hard. We shouldn't go in with this like new blood number one attitude that we had last year. It's gonna be hard not to go into that because we kind of like built this personality last year that like we're going to meme all these pages and different things. I think if you go in and we lose, I don't know what a good amount of losses is, 6 or 7 or 8, but we get like last year, we peaked so early and then couldn't figure out what was wrong with the engine in time for the tournament. If we can just have a fun time during the year and get some upsets, not freak out too bad when we get upset, as long as we're tuning that engine by the end, I think we can have a great time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think at this point, we've seen it all, right? We've seen the team that was mediocre, that got hot, that gave us like the best month of our basketball lives a few years ago. We've seen some great regular season teams. We've seen an SEC tournament, championship. So, I mean, we're shooting for championships or bust, right? Like we're going to go through it. Nobody has a better 5-year resume than Auburn in the SEC. Nobody right now. We're winning on the floor. I think we're doing a lot of really good things with development, with recruiting, getting guys to the league, and we're winning. And I think every regular season with Bruce here, we're going to try to win the regular season. But yeah, if you start out 3-4 and that goes away pretty quick, that you're probably not going to win the league. It's a long season, and you've got multiple other chances at the end to win hardware and make that season like count for something. And I think that's the cool part about basketball, and we've seen that. So you're right, we need to. But here's the cool thing: I do think our fan base is just genuinely having fun with this sport and these teams. Like it just feels like everybody is just already so excited in August to see Chance Westry play against these people, and now Janai Broome with what he did today, and Johan. Obviously, we're just scratching the surface with how good he could be. And and even these returning guys. Like, it just feels like because there's not that pressure, you have to win all these games to compete with these all-time dynasties and other sports. Like, you get 32 games, you get to watch these guys grow up and develop, and it's a lot of fun. And if you lose, it stinks, but it's okay, you know. And
Yeah.
I just think people are embracing the whole sport more, and it's been so cool to see. I mean, there's people in Auburn stuff in Israel watching basketball. Can we just like stop and people taking 2-hour lunches in August to watch Auburn basketball? Like, I know we're kind of a new blood and we're here and we're not going anywhere, but like, if you've been around, it's still just so cool. I can't get over it.
Yeah, change our expectations a bit. Remind yourself where we were just a couple of years ago. You know, if you were at any of these Israel games, I really would love to hear anybody. Nobody on Twitter has. I've not seen anybody on Twitter claim that they were there, or Instagram, or anywhere, or Reddit, or any of these places. So if you know someone that was there or anything, like, maybe, I don't know if we'll interview them or not, but I would just love to hear what kind of people made it to the game. I like to think
I would interview them
as a traveler that would go do something like that. But I do wonder, like, we saw some people in Auburn gear. I wonder how many of them are like of Jewish heritage or something, and like have some sort of connection and live in Israel, versus how many like went on vacation. I know me and Matt both grew up in the church, that there's plenty of people in the churches that like maybe they would never have gone anywhere in the world, but they would go to Israel at some point in their life, and they maybe chose to go to Israel during this trip to do the Holy Land and the basketball. And I'd love to hear from those people too. I would just love to hear the demographics of the
I think it's safe to say, if you went to Israel, if you know someone who went to Israel, let us know. We would love to talk to them on the podcast.
Yeah, even if we could just message them on Twitter or whatever, just to hear their story would be interesting, and be able to, we'd report back to you guys on you know, what it was like for those people. Yeah.
Well, it's been a fun week, man. This has been a good little, like, it's been great to see people still listening to our episodes. So we appreciate that. I know we're not going to be pushing out content 12 months a year. It's just, we have lives and stuff, but man, this was a really fun, like, reminder of this program and this team. And I wish we would have had our Israel National Championship. Jackson would have had a lot of fun doing a lot of
stuff. Matt says we're not pushing out 12 months a year, but we started back in November of last year. We have had content pretty much through, like, I guess May we skipped a bit, but we had a live draft show. Now we got Israeli basketball in August. We might just have to like get an interview or two in September and October just to say we kept it going all year.
I mean, look, we're around, but y'all people who listen to this know we're not like actively trying to like maintain a certain level of listeners, or, you know, we just want to be, if you haven't listened much, I mean, our whole thing is we're just going to be fans who we think we have good, intelligent basketball conversations, and we're going to be we're doing the post game thing. I mean, that was the thing I think that really hit last year well, was just, if you want to listen to some Auburn people talk about the game that night, have an episode up the next morning for you to listen on the way to work. I mean, that's going to kind of continue to be our thing, but we're also going to build. We've had so many cool interviews and cool opportunities to engage with the program, and we obviously hope that continues. And we love the Twitter army and just this growing Auburn basketball thing that we're just grateful to be a part of.
We're trying to get more active on Twitter. It's me on Twitter. Matt has a Twitter account also, but I'm the one that's mostly sending things out. I don't always understand it. I don't know if I'm supposed to be sending out like more just things that come to my head. It feels a little like rude almost for me to just like throw out my opinions all day long on there. It seems like what you're supposed to do. I don't know. Like,
Jackson is like 9.5 out of 10 on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, make sure you're following the John.
I get Instagram. I am all over. I create all the things. I do interesting stories. I know how it works. Twitter, I feel like I'm just like throwing things into the abyss and hoping someone likes it, you know.
Our Twitter is there, and it's, you know, fine. But and if you want to engage with us on Twitter, that would help. And we've gotten some more followers this week. You know, we've had some good connections with the sports rabbi and stuff. So we definitely welcome all that. We're never going to be the most active people on Twitter, but hopefully the
point
is
hit us up on these and let us know if there's anything you want to see or people you think would be interesting to interview or anything like that. If you're this far into the show, I think we've said this in a lot of these long episodes. We just cannot seem to do short episodes. If there's something you want to hear or see or interact with us, please do. We've gotten a lot of reviews on the podcast apps and stuff, which is very helpful, and we enjoyed those too. So thanks. If you get a second, just 5 stars us down there, you know.
Yep. All right. Anything else, Jackson?
I don't know. I just, you know, it feels like a shame to end it because we might not have another one for a while, but it was really fun to do this over like this last couple of days and have like, so, I mean, I've been like traveling a bunch and just got back to New York not too long ago. And it's just been really fun to have this like kind of thing to look forward to during my lunch breaks. And like, I don't know, it just feels exciting to be back and doing this again.
Yeah, no doubt. And we're definitely going to look forward to, I've got a few ideas. We're going to do some preseason stuff between now and then. So be ready for all the basketball content you can handle this fall from the jungle.
Cool. War Eagle, Matt.
All right, War Eagle, everybody.